And I think America will find its way, just like how it has always found its way. And if it doesn't, then this is the new America, and the rest of the world should start preparing for it.
And welcome back to, I guess, emergency episode of Majula Presents Local Politics. I am one of your pundits, Daniel and Saravanan. It's good
Oh,
to see you.
hey, how are you doing, Daniel?
Look, I mean, we are obviously here to talk about the American election, which just happened 2 days ago, and but you look like you're in a different country again. So where are you today?
Today I'm in Greece, Athens.
Uh,
Some would say maybe the beacon or the once upon a time institution of democracy. And so it's very telling for me, maybe even ironic that what has happened in the last 48 hours has happened, and I'm in Athens. But I'm sure we will unpack it. You are in Singapore, aren't you? When you
I'm
heard
in
the news.
Singapore. I'm in Singapore. Yeah, I'm in Singapore, and in Singapore, we when it comes to United States sports, the timing here to watch it is not great, right? But when it comes to United States elections, when they're counting the votes in basically the middle of the night, that's kind of our working day. So yesterday, I was trying to follow on Pritam Singh's uh, like cross-examination, but more excitingly, I was trying to follow the election, and it went by. The resolution came much quicker than we expected. I there was some thought that it would take maybe days before the final result of the election would come out because of the time it takes for voting to happen or for voting counting to happen in the western side of the United States could take a few days to count, but actually pretty much by 3 4 o'clock in Singapore, uh, I mean, honestly, even earlier, it was quite clear that there was no path for Kamala Harris to win the election. And by lunch, I had an emotional meltdown and went shopping. So, uh, so yeah, I mean, we all know now that President Donald Trump is also now the president-elect and will take office in January. Vanan, your reactions to that?
Well, I expected it. I anticipated it. I predicted it.
Mm.
Even as
Oh,
far back
really?
as June.
Yeah.
So I wasn't actually that surprised. I think what surprised me really was that he won the popular vote as well as winning
Mm.
the election. I mean, America has that really weird electoral college, and so the way that their elections are run are slightly different to other countries. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not too surprised. I'm also not really that surprised that everything that we anticipated in voter turnout and voter profile turned out
Mm.
exactly the way that I thought it was going to go. More
Yeah.
African Americans voted for Kamala, more women by percentage voted for Kamala. But at the end of the day, it still wasn't enough. I don't think it was enough from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And now the Democratic Party, I think, has a deep need to look and see how to reflect in what they're going to do moving forward, because
Oh.
he's only the second president to serve a broken term, right? So he
Yeah.
served one term and then broke and then serves another one. So yeah, what about you? You seem to have taken
I,
this more badly than me.
well, look, I didn't really want to betray my ideology here, but I think it's a pretty scary moment because not only is Donald Trump a lame duck president, he can only serve this one term, but he comes into office this time probably with more power than any other president has ever come in before in recent memory, right? As you mentioned, he not only does control the executive side of the government, which is the presidency, but the legislative is going to be under Republican control, the Senate and the House. And while Obama did come in 2008 with both the Senate and the House as well, the margins that he had were not enough to get a lot of things done. But the Republicans now have the margins that they need to, and the rules on the floors have changed so that things like filibusters can't prevent policies from happening. So basically, Donald Trump has carte blanche to do whatever he wants. And not only that, Vanan. Uh, Remember the last time Donald Trump was in office, he sent three Supreme Court justices up, which means that he also has a majority in the Supreme Court, which means that not only can he do whatever he want, if anybody wants to sue to overturn whatever he wants to do, it's not going to happen anyway because the Supreme Court is eventually going to put it down. So now we're looking at 4 years of of exactly what he said he wants to do actually happening, which are things like
Well, two
dismantling the
years, right?
government. What?
Right. Two
Well, at
years,
least
right?
2 years.
Instead
At
of
least
4 years.
2 years.
At
At
least two
least two
years.
years.
Right.
Yeah, correct. Sorry,
Right.
sorry. At least 2 years. But Saravanan, the Senate race is not done yet. The
Yeah.
Republicans could win enough votes this election in the Senate that even in 2 years, it won't matter. It won't matter. So
Right.
he's going to dismantle the government. The scariest thing to me is things like he's going to
Al-
allow yeah, allegedly.
Allegedly.
The, the scariest thing to me is he's going to allow RFK, uh, Robert F.
Executive.
Kennedy, yeah,
Yeah.
to be in charge of health, whatever that means, you know. So he's famously an anti-vaxxer. Elon Musk is going to be put in charge of making the government more efficient, whatever that
Yeah.
means.
Just cutting
Dana
budgets.
Dana White, the chairman of the Ultimate Fighting Championship, is supposed to get a role in government.
Yeah.
So if you were American and not a Republican, you'd be feeling pretty sore today. But I think these do have big ramifications for the rest of the world. But look, I don't want to spend too much time on blind punditry because you can get that anywhere else. I
Yeah.
I was trying to like sieve through these things, and I feel that there are a few lessons that any political party who is going up for an election soon could kind of take out of this, I guess, devastating loss that the Democrats just went through. Um, and I was wondering if I could use this opportunity to maybe talk about them.
Yeah.
Okay. So look, I think there's like four or five, right? And I want to kind of make the claim that if Kamala Harris had won, then obviously none of these would be real. So hindsight is always going to be 2020. And so the first thing is that I thought what was really interesting, Kamala Harris's campaign, it was only 16 weeks old. Donald Trump has been running for 9 years. So Kamala Harris never really had time to put together her own platform. Uh, and at the end of the day, why while Donald Trump's public policies maybe were not as rooted in reality as they should be or they could have been, Kamala Harris had no public policies to put forward. And so I think it really showed that having a real political platform with public policies put forward was very important in this case, right? I think Kamala Harris did run on a campaign about like feeling good about the future or having vibes about the future. But actually, that
I,
didn't resonate with Americans who didn't have good vibes anyway. And so
I
for
think she said building. I think she said building communities, right? I think was what
yeah,
what it was. Yeah.
right. And so I think putting together a campaign around vibes is not going to work. So I thought that was one interesting takeaway, that public policy still matters at the end of the day, and you have to still put out some kind of agenda and steps of what you would do so that people really understand where you stand for. I thought that was a really poignant point here. Uh, another one that I thought is that Democrats throughout this entire process, they strategically chose to kind of emphasize facts that supported their narratives. And these are facts, right? So Biden, he definitely curbed inflation, right? He managed the economy in a way that it grew a lot. The last year, the stock market has gone gangbusters. Everyone thought that after COVID, we would have another recession, but that never happened. And I think a large part of that is because of his administration's, Joe Biden's administration to efforts. And so they played up on that a lot, maybe too much, because ultimately what has come out of it is that most Americans aren't part of that growth economy anyway. You know, if you are living, especially in the swing states where this election mattered, if you are living in Michigan and you're expecting investment from a Chinese company that's trying to build batteries to help you, and you don't see that growth, and yet Kamala Harris and the Democrats are saying, "Vote for us. Look how well we did." Their experience, their lived experiences, no, that's not what you guys did. And so I think a lot of people were turned off by that. There's a lot of speculation or reporting in the news that people still don't like Donald Trump, but at least he's not telling people don't feel like they're being lied to when he says your situation is crap under Joe Biden, which I guess to people like, I mean, first of all, we're in Singapore, so we don't know. But for people like us who maybe are in the know more or understand the reality at a more conceptual level, we don't see that until it's too late. And finally, one that I thought was very interesting is that, you know, the two camps had very different approaches on how to approach the youth and the kind of current social zeitgeist. So on one hand, you Kamala Harris, and she was endorsed by a lot of mainstream, famous, high value individuals, people like Oprah Winfrey, Lady Gaga, Beyonce, Taylor Swift, and they definitely
Eminem,
helped bring a lot of people. Who?
Eminem.
Oh, really? I didn't realize he had. I didn't realize he had endorsed her.
Yeah, yeah, Eminem endorsed her. Yeah.
Uh, but look at who Donald Trump got. He got Joe Rogan. He got Dana White from the UFC. He got The Undertaker from World Wrestling Entertainment. He got Elon Musk. And very early on, I thought it was a mistake that the Kamala Harris's campaign made, because both the candidates were invited to speak at a Bitcoin conference back in July, and Donald Trump went, and that's kind of when the bromance with younger males started, which really helped him get over the line. Actually, this time the demographics that really helped him were 18 to 36-year-old males, which significantly voted for Donald Trump. Whereas Kamala Harris felt that no, this is not a group that I was interested in. And so this was another like learning point, I think, for any budding political party thinking about who or how do we strategize targeting the zeitgeist. Is it labubus? Is it I don't know what else is
Mm,
trendy in Singapore, to be honest,
mm,
because I'm such
mm.
a old man now. And I think a lot more introspection needs to be made rather than using heuristic ideas to make these decisions. So I thought these were three kind of interesting fallout points from the election.
Yeah, interesting. I think my take was slightly different. I think good vibes do win you elections. Tony Blair and Alistair Campbell in the early 90s in Labour are a good example of that. I do
Yeah.
think this microcosm that is the United States, right? They are, what I've seen from this is they are a very unique country, a very unique entity in the way they handle politics, the way they deal with the run up to their elections. First, I want to talk about the money. The amount of money that was spent by both parties was
Oh yeah.
incessant, was incredible. And at a time where a lot of average Americans were reeling from very high levels of inflation, it reminds you that people only care about what affects them
Right.
economically, but also the implications for those economic decisions must be very immediate. And Kamala very immediately took on all of Joe Biden's funding and donors. And I'm not sure if it was really a smart idea to show how much money she got in a very quick time. The second
Mm.
thing was that it was very incessant. The members of public generally among in all news interviews said that they were just so sick and tired and couldn't wait for this election to be over. That
Mm.
meant the numerous phone calls, emails, reminders, text messages, and regardless of what state you were in, to get you to donate, to get you to go and vote early. And I think it became too much into everybody's lives that,
Mm.
from a social science point of view, leads people to take the fastest and quickest decisions. Then
Mm.
now, if you reflect back, I mean, politics by politicians and politics by policy wonks like us, or people who maybe digest it to a really unhealthy level. To me, that is the disconnect, right? Because
Yeah. Yeah.
the apparatus works in a way till the person goes to the ballot box and then votes for whoever that person wants. Now, if
Mm.
there's a healthy disconnect between information dissemination and then trust that the votings will happen, is very different to pounding that door in that emotional mind space till they
Mm.
go and vote. And to
Yeah.
me, this is a big key takeaway for this American election because everybody said everything is riding on it. Both parties said that this would be a game-changing election for the American population. But what you have seen now is that the results are very clear. Donald Trump has won the popular vote. At a
Yep.
time when they said the future of the Middle East and the crisis is on the ballot, that abortion rights are on the ballot, the future of women's reproduction is on the ballot, American economy and American growth vis-a-vis in competition with China is on the ballot. He has swept into victory on all
Mm.
of those three things.
Yeah.
So I know that Kamala Luz gave a concession speech very graciously yesterday. I
Sure.
didn't, I mean, I think this is going to sound maybe a little bit controversial, but that's not the kind of speech that I would have wanted to see from a candidate who went out to win,
Mm.
particularly at a time when, it was highlighted that this was so important. This was the pinnacle of all elections in America. The last point that I wanted to make was the commentary in that country around the election and the future of what information, political information is going to be. Because I think that really will affect Singapore and Singaporeans as we move towards our G 2025. I
Mm.
think the overall crux of analysis and information has totally gone out of the window. I mean, if you look at what the American public had to deal with, the Republicans, famously or infamously has Fox supporting them. And the Democrats, I guess, has CNN and to a large extent, some parts of CBS as well. But both media outlets are media outlets in essence. The fact of what news means, I think, has completely transformed since Donald
They're
Trump,
they're reporting different facts, you know?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And if you're an average American, um, you're not sure where you're going to get your information. Not only are you not sure, you don't know where to trust. And thirdly, you might just not listen and watch these things anymore. I don't know if the future of videos is views, and I don't know if
Mm.
that is an accurate and correct form of understanding whether your messages are being heard. I think I've always wondered if more views meant more receptive understanding of what's happening. I think if you
Mm.
are, going to be someone dealing in political communication moving forward, I think this is a key takeaway.
Yeah.
I There's this amazing article I read by Paul Krugman at the New York Times. Sometimes he writes op-eds, this Nobel Prize winning, and he said it doesn't matter, and you shouldn't lay blame to what has caused this or what has happened to this, but that the journey to fixing it starts right now. He also said, and a lot of people that I'd been reading and listening said, the power of the U.S. president is not completely unchecked. I mean, the point of the U.S. System is that there's a checks and balance in every step of the way. And yes, you are right. The margins are much higher this time around.
Mhm.
The Supreme Court, the Senate, let's see what happens, Congress. But American politics, as you know, much better than me, they negotiate and they deal very much week by week, day by day around matters that they feel are important based on the
Yeah.
lobbying structure of what that
Yeah.
happens. So I don't think the reality is that Donald Trump comes in and changes everything. What
Mm.
I'm more worried about is that he changes the way the Constitution describes certain things and sets a new agenda on what happens after the next 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Everyone
Yeah.
knows he's only going to be a 4 or 5 year president. I don't think inherently that's ever going to change. But the
Yeah.
people around him and the system that he's got moving for him is much more organized than before. So I think there'll be a lot more rogue actors that we'll be seeing coming up.
Because I think I mean I think to that last point it's really poignant because this Donald Trump's version of a Republican Party is very 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 far from the Republican Party of 2016 when that all started, right? So ideologically very different, managed very
Yeah,
different, and
yeah,
now for the Democrats, if they think that they are going to be able to ever come back, I mean they have to totally redevelop who they are. I mean, it's almost like what the Tories have to do in the United Kingdom, but at a seriously much more exponential level. Because they've gone down this route where they have been talking a good game about social values, which I think I align with, but organizing in a pretty poor way, putting candidates out in a very poor way, not being strong enough to do what's right. And I think one of the other reasons that this election went badly for them is because Joe Biden said in 2020 that he was going to be a one-term transitional president, and basically took that back, and losing a lot of faith with people. But
Yeah.
what the Democratic Party should have done is put their foot down. So anyway, I mean, they're going to have to completely transform. And so maybe this is also an opportunity for the whole American political system to go through a bit of a reset. I don't know how realistic that is. At the end of the day, money will probably decide how things go. But you know, in one of the counties where in Michigan, where I think it's Dearborn, where there's actually Arab American majority, Donald Trump got 40% of the vote, and Kamala Harris only got 15% of the vote. But a third party candidate, Jill Stein, she's from the Green Party, she got 33% of the vote. Now, to most Singaporeans, you've probably never heard of Jill Stein. But the reason why she did that is because of how upset Arab Americans were with Democrats' approach to Gaza. And does this mean that, hey, maybe there could be restructuring of more political parties coming forward? We will have to see. I don't know. We will have to see.
I, I think it would be wrong of us to paint the Democratic Party as, someone who's just having to adapt based on the current election results, right? I think in the last 1.5 years, I don't think the Democratic Party has stood out all that much to be that different from the Republican. I think there has been a lot of cracks domestically within America, the way that they have treated the pro-Palestinian supporters and the way that they have treated the Arab issue has been quite alarming. And I think it has been said by numerous people across the globe, right? But at the same time, I think the Democratic Party, in the way it's supposed to redefine itself, it has to really understand and maybe even learn from Donald Trump, I think, because they are not speaking to their base.
No.
If anyone has shown the importance of highlighting and showing importance to speaking directly to your base, it is Donald Trump. And speaking to your base wins you elections. And I think that the Democratic Party has to reflect on itself, right? There's a lot of things that they need to do differently. And it's all not that bad under Donald Trump. There was economic growth in the US when we went to the WEF earlier this year. Under Donald Trump's presidency, under his presidency, the World Bank received the most amount of development funding among any other president. So I think now is the time to, because we are, I don't know if I want to use the word pundits, but we believe in giving factual information. It is also right to not just look at the Armageddon doomsday message that is going around. Particularly for Singapore, I think nothing much will really change in the near front. I think his protectionist policies and his anti-competitiveness policies, trade policies, and how that affects China might have a secondary bearing in how this part of the world develops itself. In the past Trump presidency, he didn't elect a lot of the presidential appointments that included some of the ambassadors here or in this region. So diplomatically, there might be a thing that we have to look out for. But generally for Singapore, I'm not too concerned. And I think America will find its way, just like how it has always found its way. And if it doesn't, then this is the new America, and the rest of the world should start preparing for it. And in a way, I think ASEAN and Singapore has had the advantage of being able to at least work out how they're going to work in this presidency. Very famously, a couple of weeks ago, Keir Starmer, the long-standing ally of the US, the UK, there was internal messages sending Labour volunteers, asking them to go to the US and help Kamala's campaign. Now, the West, so how the Labour government now restructures its working relationship with its long and close ally, the US, is very important for the world, but also geopolitically, when NATO is back in question and, when whether the support for Ukraine continues, all of this is a very West-based conversation. And I think for us in the East, it's more about looking and learning the lessons and adapting and making sure that we can work with anybody,
Yeah.
irrespective of whether it's Donald Trump or Kamala Harris. And I think that's the important thing.
Well, I mean, I think I worry because regardless of who won, the new administration would continue to have a pretty hard line on China, right? But uh, if it was the Democrats, you could kind of predict where that line would go. But with Donald Trump in charge, it's a bit hard to predict what his moves will be, if any, because he, mm, even in his last administration, didn't make moves practically, right? He made moves kind of, again, vibes based, and of course there were times where people managed to talk him down from doing things, but there were times when they didn't, which explains why he met Kim Jong Un twice, once in Singapore for no outcome, or basically dismantled a decade of trying to resolve issues in the Middle East by terminating the Iran nuclear deal, or tried to move the embassy in the American embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to
East Jerusalem.
Jerusalem, right? So these
That's
are
right.
things that are super unpredictable and go against the grain of what is constituted normal international relations. On the other
Yeah.
hand, I maybe he is the right person for this moment, because if you think about economically what has happened in the last 2 years, a lot of classic economic theories have kind of failed to materialize. Everybody's been kind of okay. The case in point, the Federal Reserve has just lowered its target interest rates, and you'd think interest rates will come down, but in the last 2 months, interest rates have actually shot up, which is
Yeah.
really, really weird. The inverted yield curve, which is the yield curve for bonds, which generally is used to predict whether or not a recession is on the rise, has been inverted for over a year, and rather than a recession coming, the stock market continues to go up and up. So a lot of very classical economic theories have fallen by the wayside. I mean, you would expect unemployment to continue to go down, but unemployment continues to go up. It's really complicated, and yeah, maybe you need a guy who's unpredictable as well.
Dumps.
So
Yeah, true. But again, all that matters is for people when they go to the grocery store and they go to the gas station and see that the prices are stable or coming down. I honestly, I don't think most people care or will continue to care about these things unless their immediate livelihood changes. But as we talk about whether he's right or wrong, let's not forget that he will be convicted and will be sentenced, and maybe now it will be delayed, but this is a criminal
yeah,
that will become the next president of the United States of America. However you cut and chop it, that is a
yeah,
reality. And I think that new world order that comes from this reality is something that I want to see, and maybe hold to myself the lessons that we'll be learning from them from America. In Singapore, I'm so proud that we don't have to deal with these things, at least for
yeah,
now. And I think for us that is the learning lesson. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, I mean, let's wait and see. And to all the Democrats out there, I mean,
I, I'm not a
I
Democrat.
hate
I'm
to
a
say
I'm
it,
a PAP. I'm a PAP member, not a
I hate
Democrat.
to say it, but I told you so, and I knew,
Yeah,
I knew he was going to win it. All right,
yeah.
well, let's stay tuned. I'll be back again.
We gotta stop doing these Zoom recordings. That I miss you, buddy. So hopefully, the next time. Well, you're gonna be back in a few days, and I'm not going anywhere for a few weeks. So, look, thanks for tuning in to this episode of kind of random, mindless punditry about the American election, just to let off some steam. We are Majula Presents Local Politics. We are on all the social media platforms, as I've been informed. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok, YouTube. Our YouTube shorts are doing really good. I'm pretty proud of that. Thank you, producer Marcus. Uh, Safe
And team,
travels, man. Oh, and team, yes.
thank you,
Yes, and team, yes. Safe travels.
thanks, Daniel, and let's talk soon.